Good morning. It is Monday, November the 10th of 2025. And it is about 11 o'clock in the morning. And I have had a very busy morning. And I don't really even know where to start. But first of all, I'm going to tell you that I was getting ready to come to the basement because, that's normally where I'm going to be making my videos. And I carry all my little papers and stuff down here in this little plastic container. And I just got to the top of the steps and my phone rang. And I answered it, and it was two friends that I don't see very often, but I love them, and I know that they love me. And some of you are going to know who I'm talking about when I say Lisa and Jan. And they were calling. We've got a gate across our driveway. We've had that for several years to keep the dogs from going out, even our other little dogs. And so the gate was closed, and they called and said, "How do we get into your house? How do we get this gate open?" And they were out there and had made my husband and me this beautiful cake. I know it will be delicious. And a beautiful card. And I said, "Why did you do that?" And do you know that this morning it is 27 degrees here in Kentucky? It's freezing. The wind is blowing. The sun is shining off and on. It is so cold. And here they brought this cake down here. It could just, if I was a crier, I could have cried. And I said, "Why did you do that?" And they said, "Because we love you." Now, wasn't that precious? People are so good. And it says, "A prayer for you." And I read the card to my husband, and it says, in here where they've signed their name, they said, "Sending prayers and blessings, love," and got their names on there. I thought that was just so precious. And while I'm mentioning that, Lisa and Jan was their names. I've known them all my life. And their first cousin is my bestest friend. And then another one of their first cousins is one of the ladies that is always leaving comments. And I talk about her, Rita, a lot. And Rita, just as I was getting ready to come downstairs to do this video, I noticed that you had sent a comment. And I don't think you'll care because this is proving a point here about prayer. We're always talking about prayer because it is so powerful. And it's a free gift that we have from the Lord, that we can pray for each other in our trials and tribulations, in our celebrations, in every day in our life, that we can pray for each other. And there's a lot of different prayer groups, because I know a lot of churches have like a ladies group that might be a prayer group, and they might call each other and say, "Pray for so-and-so," or on Sunday they might have, like people to add to their prayer list. Now I'm telling you, I know that prayer works. And let me just say this before I don't think Rita will care that I read what she wrote this morning. And if you want to, you can read it in the comments on, I think probably that last video I did, because she just commented this morning. Just, let me see how long it's been. Yeah, about 45 minutes ago. I've really been praying about something that I wanted to talk to my husband about. And I'm not going to say what it is or anything, but we talked this morning, and it was very positive. And I am so thankful at how we could talk about this. And it's just from prayer. It's just from prayer. And that's all I can say about it. But even at church yesterday, I requested prayer for our prayer list. So we've got people praying. And I even said to some of them, our little church have got all of you all praying for our little church. And I think, well, how can we tell people how important prayer is? Well, I feel like that God has told me, has said to me, has laid on my heart for me to do this YouTube to encourage you all to pray, to do scripture writing, to stay more in the Word. And I'm saying this for myself as much as I am to you. And then each person that you encourage, look, it's like planting a little seed and it growing. Isn't that like a little seed growing? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? To go out and tell the world how important that God is in our lives and what He can do for us. Listen to what Rita said this morning. And I am just amazed every day at how I can see that prayer, how powerful that prayer is. The power of prayer is amazing. Now this is Rita. My son was stranded at the Arlington airport for hours due to the government shutdown and lack of air traffic controllers. No rental cars were available, so I just sent a text to my cousin prayer group and one to my Bible study prayer group, and God had him loaded on a plane within 10 minutes of those prayers. That's after hours of waiting. I'm telling you all, don't neglect praying for the needs of others. Every time I have a minute of doubt or worry, God shows up and proves to me once again that He's in charge. And He can do what seems to be impossible. Thank you to all who have prayed for my friends, both who fell, and believe it or not, one of my husband's friends has also had a fall and was at the emergency room. My husband has gone to check on him. I hope everyone has a great, God-filled week ahead. He is on the throne, and we are blessed that He is. Thank you, Rita, for that. That meant so much to me this morning. I mean, that's just another example of how He works. How can you doubt that? We cannot doubt it. So share the word with someone else today, or even in your conversation. Say, oh, I'm so thankful for this and this and this. If you just use that in your just daily conversations to people that are not normally really maybe that close to God, or maybe they should be, but they've just kind of start taking things for granted, which we know that we're all guilty of that, but we're trying to do better with that. That has given me so much. Just look at the love. Just look at the love around here of people that care about us. Today I pray to be more like Jesus. To be more like Jesus. That's very short, but that's got a deep meaning in it. If we was to sit down and try to define what the word Jesus means, doesn't it? I wanted to tell you about this upper room. This was from Saturday, about always being thankful. And after that, just some things that's happened. Just this morning with my discussion with my husband, I want to always be thankful. To ask Him to meet our needs, to give us the strength, to give us the courage, to talk about things that are not comfortable to talk about. It says, give thanks to the Lord, bless His name. That's in Psalms 100, verse 4. And down here it says, God has given us so much to be thankful for. For sometimes, like children caught up in the excitement of receiving new toys, we forget to give thanks. Psalms 100 tells us that God made us and watches over us like a shepherd watches over his sheep. How truly blessed we are. And the prayer today is, generous God, you have given us so much to be thankful for. Keep us ever mindful of that reality. Thank you for your love, care, and presence in our lives. That's such a good one, isn't it? Well, I've got all kinds of little stuff written down here, but one thing I wanted to make you aware of, to tell you about, is that last night I was watching Sandra Brown, Happiness Past 60. And I know that a lot of you watch her. And I love to watch her. She's such a wise, strong Christian woman. And she doesn't care to speak out for what she believes in. Well, last night she had a video on that she put on yesterday, and it said something about goodbye YouTube. I'm not positive that's what the name of it is. It's the last one she's put up, if you've not seen it. And I thought, oh, I don't like the way that sounds. So sure enough, she has decided to take a break from YouTube. Now, I think she's been on there for like 3 years. And when she first started her channel, she lived in maybe Indiana or Ohio, somewhere up north. And she was married, and her husband got Alzheimer's. And she tells a lot about that in some of her earlier videos. And then he passed away. And this morning, I have re-listened to 2 videos that she had put up. I listened to them last night. And I thought this morning, I'm going to listen to those again. And I want to write down, she listed 30 things that she misses from being married. 30 things that she misses as a widow. And they're in 2 different videos. And some of you that have lost your husbands, I thought you might be interested in watching these. They're very interesting. And I just can't, I feel like, she's one of our sisters, because she encourages people to pray, and, her Christian life is very, very important to her. She is now married again and lives in Tennessee, which is probably not too awfully far from me. I think she's maybe 82, I'm not sure. And she might have been like late 70s when she started her channel. She's 81 or 82. Beautiful, beautiful lady. But she's got these 2 videos up, and neither one of them are very long. One of them says, the title of it is, I Lost My Husband, The Things I Miss as a Widow. And during that video, she lists like the first 15 things that she had come up off the top of her head of things that she missed being married. And then the other video is What I Missed Since I'm a Widow, Part 2. And it's got the other 15. And as she was going over all those things, I was looking at those. And we've all got such different marriages. We've all had such different marriages. And I know some of you, one time I had put up a video, and there was a man that answered. And he was telling how close that him and his wife were, and how they were best friends, and how they enjoyed, being together all the time. But we all have different marriages. And when I looked at this list of things that she missed after her husband died, and I thought, I've never had the majority of these during my married life. Sorry, Max heard something. The wind is blowing, and he thinks he's heard something. Hey, shh. It's okay. But if you'd be interested in watching those, Max, it's okay. It's okay. I encourage you to watch those 2 videos. 30 things that she misses. Okay, he's just kind of excited because the wind is blowing outside pretty hard and it blew something up against the basement door, so he's just protecting me. So we'll just overlook him. But Sandra, I am definitely going to miss your videos. But Sandra, I told you, is married again, and I think she's been married for 2 or 3 years, but she is just so precious. And if you don't watch her, take a look. I'm sure you'll enjoy her videos. I had a little paper about church yesterday, and do you know, I've already been up, I brought my stuff downstairs. I've already been back upstairs twice, and I thought, I'm not going back up there again. I'm too old to be climbing up and down them steps. So I may just tell you about that later. But we had 13 at church yesterday, and we had a good service. And 2 of my ladies that I talked to, I'm sure the 3rd one is, they both said they're doing their scripture writing. So see, if they do that and just encourage me, or just mention that in front of some of your friends, it might encourage them to do that. And just help us to draw closer. I do have a prayer request, and I've already said this before. Patty, with her back pain, you know, I know there's nothing like back pain. At one time, 2 different times in the last 2 years, I've had some shoulder pain where I kind of pull my shoulder or something. I want you to know it is pouring the snow here on November the 10th, and it never does that this early in the year. But our weather is so crazy. It's really cold here today, and then by Wednesday it's supposed to be 60 degrees. So if you want to see some snow, just run over to Kentucky and you can see it. I hope they don't call school off. I don't care whether they do or not. Hey, I had such pain in my shoulder that it was miserable because it was a constant pain. Now I can't even, relate to people that have all this pain. I know my husband has had and has a lot of pain. And if you've not, you really can't relate to him, but let's pray for Patty's pain in her back, for some relief for that. That's another little thing. Do we think about, are we thankful when we don't have pain? I got up this morning and I have no pain. I don't normally have pain. Now that is really something to be thankful about. So think about that. Oh, I've got to tell you, yesterday, Sunday, I got a cute little picture of Casper. And the young lady the people that bought him are probably in their early 30s. They're young. And they do all this trail riding. And she sent a picture of her husband on Casper, the oldest little boy behind him, which he's like 5 or 6. And then her, the mom, and the little boy that's about 2 or 3 in front of her. And then the oldest little girl, she's probably about 10, on her horse. And they had been somewhere in Virginia. And she says that Casper just loves this trail ride, said he never gets tired. He just keeps on going. And they just love him to death. And I cannot tell you how that warms my heart. And how, again, I cannot ever get tired of telling when I answer to prayer, them buying him. If you don't ever think of a prayer being answered, remember about poor Casper. He was down here with his mom, just bored to death, he's probably thinking, I wish I had somebody to ride me and I could go ride on the trails. Well, he's got them now, and they love him, and I'm sure he loves them. And he's just almost smiling in those pictures. He's so tickled. Now, I also want to tell you that, I've still got some of those little tomatoes out on the porch in my flower bed, those little cherry tomatoes. And my husband said yesterday, "You gonna pick those tomatoes off because it's gonna freeze?" Well, what does he know? I mean, it is pouring the snow. You can't even hardly see out the window. It's snowing so hard. And then I looked at the weather and I thought, I believe he's right. So after church yesterday, Max and me got us a bowl and we went out there and I picked probably 3 cups of those little cherry tomatoes, and they're green. And I've put them on a tray, spread them out so that they can ripen. Because, you know, I like them about half ripe. I mean, they've still got green on them, some of them that I eat. And I've been eating some salads with some of my meals and cutting those little tomatoes up, and they're just so good. This time of year, they're really good. You know, they have a fall taste. We used to say that the tomatoes would have a fall taste. You know what that is? And then you're probably thinking, oh, we're almost out of tomatoes. It's almost over. The tomato season is about over. And we just didn't really have any good tomatoes this year. I don't know what the deal was. Uh-oh. I didn't bring that paper down here. I'm not going back to get it. I don't think I did. Let me see if I did. I'm pretty sure I didn't. Yeah, I did. Uh-oh. I think I left the funny story up there. Well, you can't win them all. It would take me like 5 trips to get all this together. And it is so dark here in this basement. I know to you it looks light, but I don't have any lights on. But it's dark. It is dark. But someone was asking me that lived maybe in England or somewhere what Sonic Ice is. Why is it so good? So I thought, well, I'm just going to have to look it up. As Grandma Lois would say, just Google it. You can find the answer to anything. And it says, I hope I can read this. Oh, and somebody else said, you can buy these machines that make the Sonic Ice. Well, I did. It's called Pellet, P-E-L-L-E-T, Pellet Ice. And they're just little small cylinder-shaped pieces of ice, very small. And I bought one of the machines probably 3 or 4 years ago, but it just doesn't work like if you just go to Sonic and order it. If you just go to the window and say, I want 2 bags of Sonic Ice. Here's why it's so good. It's called Nugget Ice. The reason it's so good is because it's soft, airy, and porous texture makes it fun to chew. Fun. It's fun. And you know I'm all about fun. It cools drinks quickly due to a high surface area, and it absorbs the flavor of the beverage. Because, you know, if I'm sitting on the couch drinking a Diet Coke with some Sonic Ice in it, if this boy hears me pick that glass up, and if he hears that ice, here he comes. So I have to feed him ice if I'm going to be drinking over there by the couch. So it's you know, it's airy. And this is kind of ice they use at the hospital a lot of times, because I read something about that that people are not as likely to get choked on it as they are the harder chunks of ice, because this is very chewable. I strongly recommend it. But I hope people around here don't do it, because I'm afraid we're going to run out. And my dream is to have one of those commercial ice makers at my house with Sonic Ice. And one of these days, I may buy me one. I cannot believe I forgot the funny story up there, but I did. So we're just going to have to live without it. All right, let me see what else I need to tell you. I don't know how long this is because I've had to stop. I wanted to tell you that I looked at my calendar this morning for a year ago just to see what was happening on November the 10th of last year. And last year, on November the 10th, it was Sunday instead of Monday. And my girl had come in from school one day, and she said, Mom, the junior beef cattleman the Junior Beef Cattlemen's Association is having a convention in Nebraska. And I may have told you this before. And she said, I'd like to apply to go to it. I said, well, go ahead. You know, never thinking that she would really be going. Well, she filled out all this paperwork herself, submitted it. She had to write a paper why she wanted to go. And she got chosen like one, I forgot how many kids applied to go to this convention. It's kind of a big deal. And she didn't have any help from her teachers or anything. Senior in high school, and it was last fall. When she got the word that she was going, she was just beside herself. And I mean, they paid for everything. The only thing is, I had to take her to Louisville to meet this group of people. She knew the guy that was over it, and then he had a couple of lady assistants that went with him. And there was 10 kids in Kentucky that were chosen to attend this, because there was kids from around the United States that went to this. And I took her to Louisville and dropped her off. There was probably 7 girls and 3 boys, something like that. And she knew 1 or 2 of those girls just from FFA and going to meetings and stuff around the state. And they flew to Nebraska and stayed a week. And then when she got home that next week, me and my friend went up and picked her up. And she had a wonderful time. It was just, she met so many people there was people there from New York and all, not all the states, but from some different states around. It was a great learning experience and just another step in being more independent, which, you know, that's been my goal, is to make her independent, because you never know when you've got an old mom like me how long I'll be around. So I want her to be able to take care of herself. But when she came back, it was on a Sunday afternoon, and I had that little black Shih Tzu, Maggie. And if you remember that little short I put up, and her and Max were barking and running around in the living room, that I'd put up quite a while ago. Well, she had been sick. And when I went to church that Sunday morning, she was sick, and I'd had her to the vet. But I mean, I knew that she probably wasn't going to live too long. And she was 11. Now, I had a Shih Tzu that lived till he was 17, but Maggie was 11. And when I came home from church that day, this was right before we were going to start to Louisville, she was laying there on the floor, kind of stretched out, which she normally didn't lay on her side stretched out. She more laid a different way. And I went over and got down in the floor, and she wasn't breathing very hard. And I told my husband, I said, she's not going to make it. I said, she is bad, really bad. And I got down on the floor and was just petting her and talking to her real easy. And she died right there before me. And I know, and you've heard people say this before, even with people, that sometimes people don't die until maybe their son gets in from such and such or something like that. I feel like that's what she did. She was waiting for her mama to come home and say, it's okay. And, you know, I've told you I'm not much of a crier. I've cried a lot in my lifetime. And I may be cried out, I don't know. But I bawled. I was down in the floor over her, just heaving and crying. 11 years, that's a long time to have a dog, isn't it? And we get so attached to them. Now, my best friend had a cat that was 20-something years old, I think. But I thought, how in the world does one live that long? Okay. Did my scripture writing this morning. And I've already done my chapter writing, and I'm drinking an ice cold Diet Coke. I better take a drink. Now, Been a lot of cooking going on around here, and I ain't proud of it. But Thursday when I went to Walmart, I got one of those chickens. I told you, a roasted chicken. Honey, we have ate on that. Yesterday morning before church, I told my husband, I said, I hate to tell you this, but we're eating chicken again today because that's going to be the end of it. And he said, well, whatever. He just didn't care. So one day we had chicken. We had chicken heated up in a little skillet, and we had some French bread, and we had some shredded potatoes. And I had a salad with that, with lettuce, that romaine lettuce and those little tomatoes. Now he can't hardly chew the lettuce and the tomatoes, so he didn't have that. So yesterday, I got out one of them cardboard tortillas. You know, one of those wasn't very big. And heated up in the skillet. And I've heated that chicken up in another skillet. And I laid that chicken on that piece of cardboard and put some Ortega sauce on it and rolled it up for him because he didn't want anything else on it. And then I had him a little thing of cottage cheese and he likes green olives. But on mine, I put the chicken, the Ortega, the lettuce, the tomatoes, and a little salt. And I couldn't taste it, but I know that the chicken and lettuce and tomatoes was good. The tortilla is just for show. It's not for taste. If anybody knows how to doctor those things up, but now you can put butter on them and put cinnamon and sugar and cut them in little triangles and throw them in the air fryer and let them get crunchy. That's the only way you can eat those tortillas. Other than that, they're not fit to eat. You know what? That may be all I'm going to tell you, but it's until how long I've been on here because I've had to make 2 videos because someone was barking. This is not a funny, and I thought for sure I had laid that out, but I'm going to tell you this because this is so true. And I'm going to read it twice because I think you need to absorb this. The hardest pill I swallowed was realizing I meant nothing to people that meant a lot to me. I could have written this. What about you? The hardest pill I swallowed was realizing I meant nothing to people that meant a lot to me. Hey, I hope you have a great day. I think it's quit snowing, but I don't plan on getting out because my house is so warm and the wind is blowing and it's freezing cold. Hey, can you be nice to everybody you see today? And let's remember all these on our prayer list. So many needing prayer. So many needing prayer. That never gets old. And I hope the Lord will forgive me because I try to pray, and sometimes at night whenever I'm trying to pray, I go to sleep, and I don't mean to, but I do. But I hope to see you on Wednesday. And tomorrow, I hope to see old Pollyanna and see what she's up to. So you have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.